I just wanted to walk through one of the designs that I was playing around with, and I was trying to break it down into what could be theoretical iterations to help myself think through how might we work towards a bigger goal. It also helped me kind of see where things might get more challenging or where they might get more complex to make a change in. And so, just wanted to walk you through like if we started with how the application looks today with where we could potentially take it. So just showing a screenshot of prod right now with our normal navigation sidebar. But the first concept that it has is just like taking what I'm pretty sure is referred to in the code base, the user bar, and blowing that out to make it into a canvas that the main panel of GitLab would sit upon, which would look like so. So I'm for now just using that same deep dark indigo color to help illustrate like what we just took out. So we just took basically everything that was in that user bar along with a few of the other peripherals like help, the create button, and we moved those into different locations. So we've got the organization switcher, search, those your work items, your profile, the next badge, help, admin, what have you. This gives the platform more of just like a balanced feel, and it gives a sense that you're interacting with something that is within the confines of an organization or within a stable base. And so this contrast of color doesn't jive super well with me, so I'd rather default back towards how we would treat things in more of a design token setting that would appropriately adapt to the mode that you're in. So I would try and push more for like an indigo light version and then have a dark version appropriate for dark mode. So then swapping out some of the color variables just to give it a lighter canvas, just so it feels like it fits more naturally. This also kind of goes with our GitLab theming that we have in VS Code. So again, not much has changed right now. Like I think this would be something we could probably attempt and see how it feels in the product just to get a vibe for it. But then as you're going along, like one of the things I think would be an interesting thing to experiment with is breaking apart the breadcrumb. So right now we have like basically the organism and then the feature that's associated with it, and they're just kind of intermixed. So you have to naturally learn that there's like a delineation at some point, that you're not talking about a feature and the things before you're talking about are like its hierarchy. And so splitting out that hierarchy and bringing it down to the status bar. So you just keep your group project structure down there, and you allow pages and their depth to reflect in the breadcrumb bar, which should also help with some of the length that it can start to span, especially with things like the wiki. And something I've been hearing a lot about is just the challenges with GitLab Duo Chat and wanting to be able to both see it and interact with things on the page, but the drawer, even the resizable aspect of it being in the way. I think this is where we want to potentially explore adding in a panel. So before you open up Duo Chat, it would cover up just basically this whole sidebar. But instead, we could take that Duo Chat button, move it down to the status bar, and start creating these tools that you could start interacting with in a side panel that could sit right along your main panel. And it gives you a way to go back and forth without having to disrupt your page content. The challenges that we're going to face with this are definitely our ability to adapt to smaller screen real estate. So the more space that this side panel takes up, the more it's going to take from the main panel. And so for now, with like our current sidebar, we tend to hide it at lower breakpoints, which would help, but we would need to do something more strategic in the long run. But just to illustrate how this could differ, maybe we build it for chat. We also could then build out help a little more, so we could then be able to allow the user to scroll through what's new while also interacting with the platform. And they also could, have different links to the things that we already offer in that popover. So where I'm going to jump to next is highlighting what we could do around, what was I highlighting here? Don't even remember. Yes, search. Okay, so right now I have the search or go-to function, and it just opens up this generic modal that you kind of have to then add commands to for using the command palette. I'm not necessarily suggesting that we change those commands per se, but we could split the button so there could be a search and an option to browse or open something. So then you can have two different button areas. One's primarily the search, but one is becomes the primary function for opening. So I'll show you what I mean by search first. So it focuses on like the recent searches, and then you get some of your filter options that we could choose to add in there. And then maybe we could bring back even some of the things that global search introduced that have got kind of pushed down. But the thing that would be nice about this is then we could start delineating the experience a little bit, making it easier for users to discover, if they just want to go find projects, they can pick from their frequently visited or contributed, starred, personal things they're a member of. And we're starting to decrease the reliance on that projects page in your work, because you will be able to find this anywhere, and this will become the way to do that. So I think that's an interesting concept that I'd want to get to explore more. But now you can see we're starting to move beyond just like the skeleton of the navigation, and we're starting to get more into the function and flow of how you move around. Another aspect that I am interested in testing and getting more feedback on is this concept of a way to return to where you were. So let's just say you were in a merge request in the Fancy app, and you were reading it, and someone referenced a failed job in a different project. So in this case, it's Piper. If you open that job right now, your best bet to get back is the back button in the browser, but that doesn't account for if you go to a different page in that project, and then you can lose where you were, and you have to just like find your way back, which is quite obnoxious. So I was thinking about how we could give users an option if they traverse across projects, if they traverse from a group to a project, or navigate away from projects. We give them a way to go back, and they can always dismiss it, but that could give them a reference point that they can trust that GitLab will help them remember where they were, so they don't have to continue carrying it. So again, we're kind of now touching into that, like how do we change the feel of traversing GitLab? And from there, now I am interested in how we could evolve settings. So we're going from like that collapsible list to like a settings. I'm thinking like some type of like settings depot where you can combine all the different settings together. So once you open that, you would, if you opened it directly from the project, you'd be pulled into your project. Or if you open it from the admin, you could be pulled directly into the admin area for the instance. But you start getting this breakdown of the hierarchy, so you can understand like your account versus the instance you're on, if you're probably self-managed, or organization group, the hierarchy you're within. And then we can start isolating specific things that I think are more unique, so like GitLab Duo or Enterprise Agile Planning, these add-ons. So we give a single touch point, a single pane of glass to really see into those things. And then we could figure out how to bring in some other options that could give us more flexibility around configuration. So we don't have to then like embed things that are trying to do inheritance, but then sometimes overrides and then sometimes exceptions, and start isolating those power user features from just like the sensible defaults. This is more just a proof of concept, not necessarily the direction per se. But again, like it would be nice to then be able to go, oh, I can just jump back into the merge request that I was just in, as opposed to needing to go find it, because I could go through all these pages and then getting back to the thing that I was working on to just fix that. Approval rule would be a nice way to move quickly. And now circling back to a point former where I was talking about needing to give more real estate back to the page, especially if we add in a second side panel. There's always been this desire to get the nav rail back, particularly in projects. But we really would need it to be able to rely purely on iconography and without having a bunch of other items in the way. So I would love to explore the concept of just like being able to reduce the sheer volume of items that appear in the navigation bar. One of my ideas is that we keep the pin section, but you would start with the 5 most utilized features, and then from there you add more in, or as you're utilizing them, we could start building that pin section a little bit deeper, and then you just have a library that you can pull from all the features from. And that could be a way to make it easier for users to personalize their space, but also give them a consistent place to find everything. So like I said, this kind of just shows like how we could then still give users access to their project navigation without having to impact the page as much. And where I think this then brings us to is we don't have to rely on the same exact sidebar in every context. So maybe we've landed at this point where we still have this your work sidebar, but we could theoretically stop using that and start designing it to be more specific to your work. I'm just throwing one concept out there, like perhaps we put in the sidebar for the homepage the option to find projects that are relevant to you, or maybe we can promote some specific links that would be useful for users to find, things like their workspaces or the CISD catalog. But yeah, I think we could then evaluate each of the different contexts, like the admin area, search, user profiles, and find a way to better design a template that fits those contexts. I would love for organizations, groups, and projects to have their own identity, one that's built around like what is that element and how can we better empower users to use it. But this whole exercise was more or less just to show like how we could potentially iterate to that, and really to gauge like, are we even interested and have the capacity to do such a thing? So, would love to hear any thoughts if you have them.